It has been generally accepted that if Nigeria is to make rapid progress on all fronts internally, and if she is to make her mark on the continent of Africa, and indeed in the Committee of Nations, then her youth must be fully mobilized and be prepared to offer willingly and without asking for rewards in return, their best in the service of their nation at all times. The establishment of the National Youth Service Corps is the first step towards the realization of this lofty goal. In conclusion, I wish to assure you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Directorate of the National Youth Service Corps, of the full support and cooperation of all the governments in the Federation in your undertakings. Yours is not an easy assignment, and the whole world will watch to see what you make of this bold and challenging venture. God willing, you will not fail. I wish you the very best of luck, success, and God's blessings. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of NYSC Half Hour. I am Nkem Agunwa. On today's episode, we speak to the third Chief Executive of the National Youth Service Corps, Colonel Peter Kolawole Obasa, retired, who served the scheme between 1979 and 1984. Born in Kaba, Kogi State in January 1938, Colonel Obasa joined the Nigerian Army in 1967, where he rose to become a colonel and proceeded to serve as the chief executive of the scheme. During his time at the scheme, he introduced various notable initiatives that propelled the scheme to greater heights and remains relevant till today. Let us meet Colonel Obasa.
Was established by General Yakubu Gowon when he was head of state in 1973. At that time, I was in Port Harcourt as the divisional education officer. So the first batch of corps members posted to River State came to us. We had to organize their training scheme, accommodation and things, because I was a member also of the State Secretariat of the Youth Corps at that time. So I came very close to the scheme from its inception.
Colonel Obasa is a seasoned educator with distinguished professional and academic qualifications. He rose to become the Director of Studies at the Nigerian Defense Academy. Upon resumption as the NYSC Chief Executive, Colonel Obasa reorganized the orientation course into a quasi-military regiment in order to prepare corps members both mentally and physically for the task ahead.
September 28, please, 1979. When I got there, I read through all this literature that were made available to me on the scheme, because I had to really learn fast. I got through everything. And then looking at the scheme as it was operating on the ground, I discovered that the first instance of a corps member getting acquainted with the scheme is from the orientation course. That is the point at which either he clashes with the scheme, or he merges into the scheme, or he gets married to the scheme, or whatever. To me, this looks a very important point a point at which one might have to do a bit of rethinking. And that was what I did. And what I mean here is that the orientation course then was handled by the police, Nigeria police, the man of war, and then personnel of the National Youth Service Corps scheme. The military came in tangentially, that's glancingly more or less, not terribly involved, as if they weren't even concerned participants. So, and I thought that a scheme of this nature, which to my mind looked like a quasi-military institution or organization, should have more of a military content in its training. So I asked Army headquarters to assist me, and they sent me 2 officers from the training branch to help me figure out or fashion an orientation course scheme or timetable for 4 to 6 weeks of the National Youth Service Corps. We sat down in my office and then we did everything that we could do. And we introduced so many things in the orientation course, such that if you went into the camp, you would discover that this camp was more of a military camp than any other thing. And you see, things like route march came in there. There wasn't anything like route march before that. And the route march was to take corps members through route march, the distance of which should be from 3 to 6 kilometers every day in the morning. That came in. Then we added a few other things of military interest. Even there were some tactical training, but those also were withered out later on. And of course, when you do this, you have to bring in instructors who are capable of handling these things. So we had to bring in lots and lots of military instructors, drill instructors, tactical instructors, and other instructors to concentrate and deliver the training scheme during the orientation course to corps members. The idea was not to make them soldiers or whatever, but to make them better corps members, more attuned to the kind of orientation we were thinking of in the interest of the nation. It was kind of, quasi-military service. And I wanted it to look that way. So the camp was militarized. The head of the camp came in as a camp commandant. That was after I had done those things. We had to change the orientation of the camp, we had to change the tone, we had to change everything, from the instructors to the camp head was a military camp commandant. And at that time, I said should be of the rank of major, preferably major, or if they can't find a major, should be a captain. And this took effect from 1982. So these were the things I started with. And I'm happy that it still looks like that now. I think you still have the camp commandant, military instructors, and what have you in the place. Well, the whole thing started in 1982. But these were the earliest things that I put into the scheme. There were other things that I built in later on, because I saw the scheme as a kind of scheme that should keep growing, and I'm happy. And from what I read about the scheme, it is growing. There are new items coming in. There are new ideas coming in. There are new things coming in, which I think is fantastic and a credit to the those running the scheme, particularly the Director General and his staff. I mean, they are making the scheme a viable and veritable scheme. I'm happy to see that. Nigeria serves, Nigeria we
serve. Colonel Obasa's enduring legacy indeed paved the way for a vitalized and invigorated scheme. Thank you, sir, for your illustrious contribution towards the growth and development of the scheme. We move on to our next story on Seyi Abolaji, an ex-corps member who served in Ogun State back in 2012. During his service here, he took full advantage of the NYSC Skill Acquisition and Entrepreneurship Development Program, SAID, and founded Wilson's Juice Co. Limited, who are the producers of lemonade fruit juice located in Shangoota in Ogun State. After the in-camp SAID training, Seyi Abolaji was fired up and determined to become an entrepreneur. He made his first cup of freshly squeezed lemonade on a whim, selling them to students at Covenant University in Nigeria. Today, Wilson's annually supplies 600,000 liters of not for concentrate, but real fruit-based lemonade and lemonade tea blends to over 1,200 locations in Lagos and 27 other states across the Federation. It is such an inspiring story. Let us meet the man behind the brand.
My name is Seyi Abolaji. I'm originally from Kwara State, Orago to be specific. My parents moved me out of the country when I was like 4 or 5. I came back when I was 25. I did my high school in Colorado. I did my university in California at Stanford University. Played professional football for a few years. I had enough aunties and uncles in the US that all were saying they'll be going back home in 2 years. They'll be going back home in 3 years. 15, 20 years later, they've never come back home. And I didn't want that to be my story. So I bought a one-way ticket back. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I felt like there were more opportunities for somebody like me. And then it was time to go for service. Initially I was thinking I wasn't going to go, but I said, okay, let's go. And I didn't think much of it at the time. So I went to camp in Shagamu, and I took 3 books to me when I went to service. 3 books with me. A book called Acres of Diamonds, The Richest Man in Babylon, and Think and Grow Rich. So I just said, if I have time. Then I picked up 2 or 3 more books while I was at camp. One of them called The Science of Getting Rich. That book really opened up some things for me. And while I was in camp, I was a little disappointed, to be quite frank. Most of the people that were there, I was shocked. Many people weren't that sharp. That was my first opportunity to get to be around a bunch of Nigerians my age. I've always moved with older people. I don't have friends still here, so I figured it would be an opportunity to make friends. But I realized we were just moving on different frequencies. Most of my cohort were focused on what was wrong and could only talk about what was wrong. That was the first year that SAID came up, and they were saying, yeah, there could be a 1,000 Naira grant or 10,000, some grant. And I was like, wow, somebody's ready to give you 100,000 as a grant. But all my colleagues were like, Kinimo Fefi, 100,000 shit. Like, what am I going to do with the 100,000? Me, I saw opportunity with the 100,000. They were saying it's not enough to, buy business cards or something. And as I was reading those books for the camp, it was just a lot about like what you see, how you think, what you feel, what you see. That's what determines your future. A lot of it was inward looking. And it just so happened that year is when they started a program called SAID. skills acquisition and entrepreneurship development, or something like this. And many people were saying, we have to go for another thing. You're tired, you just want to hang out. And there was just like another program. There was in bead making, jewelry making, bags, detergent, tie and dye, and they had a course for juices or drinks or something like that, just something drinks. And I just chose the drinks. And before then, I was trying to run a business doing drinks like juices. That was like the last business I was trying to do. And I learned a lot about preservation. So the instructor, it was like, like, what's your own now? Why do you have all these questions? But I had so many questions for this guy because I studied history and philosophy. So my background, my education has nothing to do with business or manufacturing or marketing or anything like that. But again, reading those books, I just realized there's a lot about anything you want to learn. If you're willing to sleep a little less, you could give yourself. You don't need a certificate. You could graduate yourself. So I figured there's an expert. He was teaching us about juice making. So I was asking, how do you blend? The biggest thing I got out of that the Said was actually preservatives. How to get something to sit on a shelf for more than a week. Because everything that we were doing up to that point was, make it and sell it, make it and sell it, make it and sell it. So as the guy was teaching us, I was seeing an opportunity for, wow, okay, so you can make it, look for somebody and still sell it. Now it doesn't have to be the same day. It could be 2 days, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months. So every time that this guy came from the course, it was like me and him. It was me and him, and he was like, you again, all these questions. But the guy was he was pretty cool. Gave me a lot of information about sodium benzoates and other preservatives anyway. So through that, the 3 weeks I was in camp, it was reading and Said. Those are the two things I was looking forward to. I played professional sports, so all the physical activities were not so challenging for me. But the reading and the training, that gave us the confidence to try to get NAFDAC. We got NAFDAC in 2013. And that allowed us, so that learning about the preservatives gave us the insights for, okay, now we could have a product that's not only sold one-on-one, but could be sold on shelves. And with that confidence, we started pursuing NAFDAC. I made Mrs. Samuel. She was not the camp director, but she was one of the ladies at the camp, like a big auntie to us. Just kept on encouraging me. Like she came to visit before and just saying, oh, wow, you have a good idea. Why don't you try to do more with it? So it's like a lot of encouragement, a lot of support, not necessarily financial, but that, that backing of, hey, this is something that you could do. This is something that could work.
The company locally sources all its ingredients, helping support a network of hundreds of local farmers, while its production facility employs a Nigerian workforce of over 50 people, more than 60% of whom are women.
Started in a little kiosk, 1-2 people. At a point in time, even early this year, we had about 70-something people on our payroll. Since February to now, it's been a little tough with inflation and prices of everything going up. Right now, I think we may have 30 or 40-something people on our payroll. We have hundreds of farmers around the country that are supplying us lemons, limes, hibiscus, and different ingredients that we use for our products. This is 9 years later, and we keep growing. The brand keeps growing. We're able to impact more people, and even now with what Nigeria is going through, we still see opportunities for growth. And all of that was like a heavy foundation of even going those 3 weeks in service at the camp. Actually, those 3 weeks at the camp, there were different sets of challenges. I lived in a place we dubbed Hotel Rwanda. Just everybody was sleeping on top of each other. Everything was just so, tight. But there were a few people through the camp that were focused on, hey, I'm going to use these 3 weeks to get ahead. There were a lot of people that said, and found reasons why those 3 weeks were wasteful. But I know for me, it just gave me an opportunity to really focus on, hey, what other potentials are there with this? It was a very small business in a little kiosk that we were thinking about at the time. But with those skills, it kind of helped us paint a bigger picture for what the business could be. And like I said, now, hundreds of lives impacted through even just our farmer network, mainly women in rural areas, that are supplying all the citrus. The guys get involved with the carrying of the bags and the transporting them, you know. But everybody that we speak to, you know, one lady that supplies us 50 bags is actually working with probably 100 to 150 people, gathering 2-3 bags from each bin, right? Or 2-3 people coming together to get one bag filled, you know. So it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey.
I have been with Wilson's for I think 8 years now, or close to 9 years. So working with Wilson's have been the greatest achievement in me. I started working with Wilson's when I finished my secondary school. I've achieved a lot of things working with Wilson's. I got married working with Wilson's. I have kids now. Also, my educational background, I had my certificates, still working with Wilson's. I did a part-time study in banking and finance, both my HND and my ND. So, not really about the certificate, but the knowledge I've derived working with the MD of Wilson's, Mr. Sheyi Abolaji and Mr. Shinwa Abolaji. They've really been a mentor to me.
Working with Wilson's has been so much wonderful. As a trained scientist and a biochemist, I've always wanted to work in a system where I can give back to the society. And I've been so much fulfilled ever since I've been working with Wilson Company Limited here. I've been so much given to society through production of healthy products of natural origin. So the most great part of it is we've been producing a healthy product of natural origin. Especially it's very natural. That's more vitality, very refreshing, and they contain natural ingredients and supplements necessary for a healthy living. So for diabetes as well as all other health challenging diseases. So there are so much opportunity for youth in this country. So we can tap from any sources. So be it working for yourself or working with a particular company. So ever since I've been here, it has been so much wonderful.
Coming in here with the little experience I have, I would say I've acquired much more that has made me more suitable in both small and larger food processing firms. I've been integrated not just in the production processes, but also in the business part of the business. Now we have to interact with vendors, suppliers. We have to interact with the regulatory agencies. And continuous improvement is like a watchword for us. So there's always something to improve on. You're always challenged to be better. Our own uniqueness we have is the fact that our products are natural based. It is solely not from concentrates. So we source our products, our raw materials locally, and we still give it the best quality so that they can compete with other products in the market. And I think we are doing well because we received a lot of positive feedback so far. It's not like there are nothing to be improved upon, but not things that threaten the safety of our consumers.
Thank you to NYC Shagamu Camp specifically is, you know, these people that even thought up the idea of seed. Saeed, I wasn't expecting that, you know, and to have that, like even our set, I'm sure it's even better now, but our set being the first set that even had that opportunity. You know, I know that if I didn't learn about preservation at that point in time, I'm not sure we may have still be here, probably be a little further behind than where we are now. You know, so yes, definitely thanks to NYC, thanks to Saeed, thanks to Mrs. Samuel. She was a big part of my experience, you know, in camp. So again, NYC camp, that whole camp experience was a big part of forming that, you know, that grit, you know, that's agidi, that's willingness to engage and fight for what we want.
Sheyi Abolaji's goal is to position Wilson's Juice Co. Limited as the premier natural beverage company in Africa over the next decade. This idea was birthed during the NYSC in-camp SAID training. Tell me, do you plan to flicker through your phone while the SAID in-camp training is going on? Don't do that. Don't cheat yourself out of a self-reliant future. It doesn't get any better than this. Trust me, take the SAID program seriously. Apply yourself, and you would be shocked that you, yes you, can become a wealth creator, an employer of labor, and a viable contributor to Nigeria's economic development. We will be right back. Join us again.
The National Youth Service Corps, a call to service, a call to nationhood. Nigerian youths, stand up and embrace this clarion call. Wherever you are posted, accept it, embrace it. Do not harbor any fears, because your security is assured. Develop common ties with members of your host communities. You would discover that North, South, East and West, we are all brothers with common ties and a shared destiny as one nation. Do not lobby for preferential posting, for it is unpatriotic and illegal. Report at once to the orientation camp as soon as you are posted and contribute your quota to the overall development of our great nation, Nigeria. The National Youth Service Corps, building future leaders.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of NYSC Half Hour. We always love to hear from you. Please write to us on the online handles displayed on your screens right now, and I promise you we would write back. Remember, the safety of core members in our communities is the responsibility of you and I. Until I see you next time, I am Nkem Agonwa. Stay safe.